The message came on a Tuesday morning. Yuna was sitting in her small office at the university, drinking cold coffee and reading student papers. The papers were boring. The coffee was bad. It was a normal day. Then her computer made a strange sound. A sound it had never made before. Yuna looked at the screen. There was a symbol she did not recognize. It was not Korean. It was not English. It was not any human language at all. She clicked on it. The message was from the Galactic Academic Council. Yuna read it 3 times because she could not believe it. The aliens wanted a human scientist to come to their research station. They wanted help with a problem they could not solve. Yuna laughed out loud. She was nobody special. She taught physics to students who mostly wanted to sleep. She had written one paper that almost nobody had read. Why would aliens want her? Her door opened. Do-hwan, her department head, walked in. He was a tired man with gray hair and glasses that were always dirty. "You saw the message," he said. It was not a question. "Is this real?" Yuna asked. "It is real. The government confirmed it this morning. Earth has been part of the galactic community for 18 years now. The aliens have a big problem. They have been working on it for a very long time. They asked every species for help. Now they are asking humans. But why me?" Do-hwan sat down in the old chair across from her desk. The chair made a sad sound. "Because nobody else wanted to go," he said honestly. "The other scientists are afraid. They think the aliens will laugh at us. Humans are new to space. We are like children to them. Going there and failing would be embarrassing." Yuna thought about this. She understood the fear. Or the fear. She had seen the news reports about first contact 18 years ago. She had watched the videos of alien ships landing on Earth. The aliens were old. Their civilizations had existed for thousands of years. Humans had only just learned to leave their own planet. What is the problem they cannot solve? She asked. Do-hwan pulled out his phone and showed her a picture. It was a strange object. It looked like a crystal pillar covered in symbols. "They call them the precursor equations," he explained. "These pillars were found on dead planets all across the galaxy. The beings who made them are gone. Nobody knows what happened to them. But the symbols on these pillars are supposed to contain important knowledge. Maybe the secret to traveling between galaxies. Maybe something even bigger. The aliens have been trying to understand these symbols for 400 years. They have failed. 400 years. Yuna could not imagine working on one problem for so long. And they think a human can help? She asked. They are desperate. They've tried everything. Their best scientists, their biggest computers, nothing works. Asking humans is their last idea. They do not expect us to succeed. But they have no other options. Yuna looked at the picture again. The symbols seemed to move slightly, like they were alive. She blinked, and they were still again. Maybe she was just tired. Where is this station? She asked. It orbits a neutron star. Very far away. The trip would take 2 months by alien ship. 2 months in space. Yuna had never left Korea. She had never even been on an airplane. The idea of traveling across the galaxy made her stomach feel strange. But something else was happening inside her. Something that felt like excitement. For years, she had sat in this small office, teaching the same lessons, writing papers nobody read. Her life was small and quiet. This was a chance for something different. What if I fail? She asked. Then you fail, Do-hwan said simply. You come home. Life continues. But at least you tried. At least you saw things no human has seen before. Yuna thought about her grandmother, Bora. The old woman had died 5 years ago. She had lived her whole life in the same small village, but she had always told Yuna stories about the stars. There are worlds up there we cannot imagine, her grandmother used to say. One day, someone from our family will see them. Maybe that someone was Yuna. When do I leave? She asked. Dawan smiled for the first time. 3 days. The alien ship will pick you up in Japan. You should probably start packing. 3 days. Yuna looked around her tiny office. At the old books on her shelf. At the picture of her parents on her desk. At the coffee cup with the chip on the edge that she had used for 10 years. She was scared. Of course, she was scared. But she was also something else. Something she had not felt in a very long time. She was curious. That night, Yuna called her mother. Yoonji cried when she heard the news. So far away, her mother said. What if something happens to you? Then something happens, Yuna said, surprising herself with her own calmness. But I have to go. I have to try. Her father, Dong-yoon, took the phone. He was a quiet man who built furniture with his hands. He did not say much, but when he spoke, his words mattered. Your grandmother would be proud, he said. Go see those stars for her. 3 days later, Yuna stood in a field in Japan. The grass was wet with morning dew. The sky was gray and cloudy then the clouds parted. A ship came down. It was silver and smooth, like water frozen in the shape of a teardrop. Yuna picked up her small bag. She took one last breath of earth air. Then she walked toward her future. The journey through space was strange and beautiful. Yuna spent most of it looking out the window of the alien ship. She saw colors she had no names for. She saw stars being born in clouds of glowing gas. She saw planets with rings made of ice and dust. The ship was run by machines. Yuna was the only living thing on board. She ate food that came out of a small machine in the wall. It tasted like nothing. She slept in a bed that was too hard. She missed Korean food. She missed her parents. She missed Earth, but she also felt something new. She felt small in a way that was not sad. The universe was so big, so full of wonders, and she was seeing it. After 2 months, the ship arrived at Station Horizon.yun. I pressed her face against the window like a child. The station was the biggest thing she had ever seen. It was larger than her whole country. It floated in the dark light of a dying star. The star was a neutron star, a dead sun that still glowed with strange energy. The station was covered with lights. Ships moved around it like fish swimming near a reef. Some ships were small. Some were bigger than cities. A voice came through the speakers in the ship. It spoke Korean, which surprised Yuna. Welcome to Station Horizon. You are the human delegate. A guide will meet you at Dock 7. The ship landed smoothly. Yuna picked up her bag and walked down. The dock was full of aliens. Yuna had seen pictures and videos of alien species before. Everyone on Earth had. But seeing them in real life was different. Her heart beat fast. Her legs felt weak. She wanted to run back to the ship. There were tall beings made of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows on the walls. There were creatures that looked like clouds trapped in glowing containers. There were insect-like beings with many arms and eyes that moved in different directions. A crystal being approached her. It was taller than Yuna by 2 heads. Its body made soft musical sounds when it moved. I am Tessic, the being said. The words came from a small device floating near its head. I will be your guide. Thank you, Yuna said. Her voice sounded small and scared. Tessic made a sound like breaking glass. Yuna later learned this was how his species laughed. You are very small, Tessic said. Humans are very young. Your species is only known about us for 18 of your years. Most of us have known about each other for thousands of years. Try not to get in the way. Yuna felt her face become hot. She wanted to say something sharp, but she was too nervous. She just nodded and followed. The station was like a city inside a building. There were streets and open spaces and areas with plants from many different worlds. Some plants glowed. Some moved on their own. One plant tried to touch Yuna with a long leaf. She jumped back in surprise. Tessic made the glass-breaking sound again. Do not worry. It only eats small insects. You are too big. They walked for a long time. Finally, they reached a huge room. It was bigger than any building Yuna had seen on Earth. The ceiling was so high that clouds formed near the top dot in the center of the room. Floating in the air were the precursor equations. Yuna stopped walking. She could not move. The symbols were projected in light. They were massive, taller than houses. And they were moving, shifting, changing. They never stayed the same for more than a moment. This is what you are here to solve, Tessic said. The precursor equations have been studied for 400 cycles. That is about 400 of your Earth years. Every species in the galactic community has tried. The Valori, my people, are known for our mathematical minds. We have failed. The Keth have the most advanced computers in the galaxy. They have failed. The Neth can think in 12 dimensions at once. They have failed. Tessic turned to look at Yuna with crystal eyes that had no warmth. Humans have none of these abilities. You cannot think in multiple dimensions. Your computers are toys compared to ours. Your mathematical knowledge is very basic. But the Council has decided to try everything, even asking children for help. Yuna stared at the equations. They made her eyes hurt. Her brain could not make sense of them. Every time she thought she understood a symbol, it changed into something else. Why do they change? She asked. That is the problem, Tessic said. The equations shift depending on who looks at them. Different observers see different things. We have tried millions of ways to make them stable. Nothing works. They are a puzzle that does not want to be solved. Yuna walked closer to the projections. She felt something strange. The symbols were not just moving randomly. There was something like a pattern, a rhythm, like breathing. Can I have a workstation? She asked. Tessic's crystals made a surprise chiming sound. You want to start now? You just arrived. Most new researchers spend weeks preparing. I want to watch them, Yuna said. Just watch. For now, Tessic assigned her a small station in the corner of the room. It was far from the other researchers. The message was clear. The human was not important. Yuna did not mind. She sat down and looked at the equations. For hours, she just watched. She did not try to solve anything. She did not run any computer programs. She just observed the symbols as they changed and shifted and danced in the light. The other researchers ignored her. Sometimes, they walked past and made sounds that were probably jokes about her. Yuna did not care. She was starting to see something. Something the others had missed. The equations were not just data. They were not just information waiting to be decoded. They were alive. In some strange way that Yuna could not explain, they were breathing. And maybe, just maybe, they were waiting for someone to listen. Days turned into weeks. Yuna sat in her small station and watched the equations. She took notes in a paper notebook, which made the other researchers look at her strangely. Nobody used paper anymore. Not even on Earth. But Yuna liked paper. She liked the feeling of pen on page. She liked drawing the symbols by hand, even if they changed before she could finish. There was something about drawing that helped her think. The other researchers continued to ignore her. They ran their programs and calculations. They had meetings where they argued in languages Yuna could not understand. They tried new approaches that failed like all the others. Sometimes a Keth researcher named Haniel would stop by her station. Haniel was an insect-like being with 6 arms and eyes that sparkled like black jewels. Unlike Tessic, Haniel seemed curious about the human. "You have not submitted any work," Haniel said one day. The words came through a translator that gave Haniel a warm, friendly voice. "The council is asking about you. They think maybe you have given up." "I am working," Yuna said. "Just not the way they expect." Haniel looked at Yuna's notebook. Pages and pages of hand-drawn symbols. Lines connecting different shapes. Numbers and notes in Korean. "What is this?" Haniel asked. "I am not sure yet," Yuna admitted. "But I think I am seeing something the computers are missing." Haniel made a clicking sound that meant interest. "Tell me." Yuna pointed at the floating equations. "Everyone tries to freeze them, to make them stop moving. But what if they are supposed to move? What if the movement is part of the message?" Haniel's many eyes blinked slowly. "We considered this. We recorded the movements and analyzed them. We found no pattern." "You analyzed them with computers," Yuna said. "Computers look for mathematical patterns, numbers and formulas. But what if this is not mathematics?" "The precursors were an advanced species," Haniel said. "Their technology was beyond anything we have." "Of course they use mathematics. Did they?" Yuna asked. "Or do we just think they did because we use mathematics?" Haniel had no answer for this. The Keth researcher walked away, clicking thoughtfully. That night, Yuna stayed late in the research chamber. Everyone else had gone. The huge room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the projectors. She stood in front of the equations and let her eyes relax. She stopped trying to read them. She just felt them. The symbol shifted and changed. Shifted and changed. Over and over, and then she heard it. Not a sound exactly. More like a feeling of sound. A rhythm. The equations were pulsing. Like a heart. Like music. Yuna closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother. Laura had taught her many things when Yuna was young. How to make kimchi. How to fold paper into birds. And how to read traditional calligraphy. The meaning is not just in the symbol, her grandmother had said. It is in the movement. In the space between strokes. In the feeling behind the brush. Yuna opened her eyes. She looked at the equations with new understanding. The alien scholars had been trying to read the symbols, like words in a book, fixed, static, dead. But the precursors had not written a book. They had written a song. Yuna began to hum. It was a simple tune her grandmother had taught her. A folk song about spring. About waiting through winter for flowers to bloom. As she hummed, she moved her hand in the air, following the rhythm of the equations. The symbols pulsed. Her hand moved. The melody continued. And then something happened. One of the symbols stopped changing. It became fixed, clear, readable. Yuna stopped humming. The symbol began to shift again. She started humming once more. The symbol stabilized. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were shaking. She continued to hum, adjusting her rhythm to match the pulse of the equations. One symbol stabilized. Then another. Then 3 more. She hummed for hours. Her throat became dry. Her voice became rough. But she did not stop. By morning, she had decoded the first sequence. The meaning was not what she expected. It was not a formula or an equation. It was a feeling. A sense of longing. Of reaching out across the dark, empty space between stars, hoping someone would reach back. The precursors had not left instructions. They had left an invitation. And now, for the first time in 400 years, someone had finally heard them. Yuna sat down on the floor. She was exhausted. Her voice was gone. Tears were running down her face. Though she was not sure why, she heard footsteps. Haniel appeared, followed by Tessic and dozens of other researchers. They had been watching from a monitoring room. "What did you do?" Tessic demanded. His crystals were jangling with shock. "How did you stabilize the sequence? We have no record of your method. You used no computers, no quantum analysis. You just made sounds with your mouth." Yuna looked up at the crowd of alien scholars, the greatest minds of 12 civilizations. They were all staring at her. A small human woman sitting on the floor with tears on her face. "I listened," she said simply. "I stopped trying to solve them, and I listened." The precursors did not write a code. They wrote a song, and you cannot understand a song by taking it apart. You have to feel it. The room was silent. Then Haniel made a sound Yuna had never heard before. Later, she learned it was the Keth expression of deep respect. 400 years, Haniel said. We never thought to just listen. News of Yuna's breakthrough spread across Station Horizon like fire. Within hours, her small corner station was surrounded by hundreds of researchers. Aliens of every kind pushed and crowded to see the human who had done the impossible. Tessic was there, but he was not laughing anymore. His crystal body made soft, uncertain sounds. "Show us," he said. "Show us what you did." Yuna's voice was still rough from humming all night, but she stood up and faced the crowd. "I cannot show you exactly," she said, "because it is not a technique. It is a way of thinking. You approach the equations as a problem to be solved, data to be decoded. You used logic and mathematics and computers. But the precursors did not think that way. How do you know how they thought?" A Valori researcher demanded. "They've been gone for millions of years." "Because they left this message," Yuna said, pointing at the equations. "And the message itself tells us something about them. They could have written instructions. They could have used pure mathematics. Any species advanced enough to travel between galaxies would know how to encode information clearly. But they chose not to. They chose to make something that shifts and changes. Something that feels alive. Why would they do that?" The aliens looked at each other. None of them had an answer. "They did it because they wanted to find species who understood," Yuna continued. "Species who could feel as well as think. The equations are a test. Not a test of intelligence. A test of wisdom." Over the following days, Yuna worked to decode more of the equations. She could not do it alone. She needed help. Haniel joined her first. The Keth researcher had been thinking about what Yuna said about feeling versus analyzing. Haniel had young children back home, and watching them learn had taught the Keth something important. Children do not learn by analyzing, Haniel told Yuna. They learn by experiencing, by touching and tasting and feeling. We forget this when we become adults. We start to think that knowledge only comes from thought. But that is not true. A young Valori named Rimek joined next. Unlike Tessic and the older Valori, Rimek was open to new ideas. The young researcher was fascinated by human art and music. Before the Precursor Project, Rimek had studied Earth's cultural history. "Your species creates so much art," Rimek said, crystals singing with wonder. "Music, paintings, stories, dances. We Valori make some art, but not like you. For us, art is decoration. For humans, it seems to be necessary. Like food or water." "Maybe it is," Yuna said. "Maybe that is why humans were able to hear the precursors. We never stopped making songs." A month after Yuna's breakthrough, another human arrived at the station. His name was Taiho. He was a mathematician from Bizan who had heard about Yuna's discovery and demanded to be sent to help. Taiho was different from Yuna. He was loud and confident and liked to argue. But he understood what Yuna had figured out. He understood that solving the equations required both the head and the heart. "In Korean, we have a word," Taiho told the research team one day. "Jeng, it is hard to translate. It means a deep emotional bond. A feeling of connection that goes beyond words. I think the precursors had Jang for whoever would find their message. They wanted to connect, not just to teach. The team worked together for months. Slowly, the equations revealed their secrets. Each decoded section was not just information but emotion. Loneliness, hope, wonder, fear, love. The precursors had been alone in the universe for a long time. They had searched for other intelligent life and found none. They had watched younger civilizations rise and fall, never reaching the stars. Finally, they decided to leave, to travel beyond the known universe to somewhere new. But before they left, they created the equations. A message for whoever came after. A map and an invitation and a song of hope. They are coordinates, Yuna announced to the council one day. The equations are coordinates to a meeting place, at the edge of the observable universe. The precursors are waiting there. They have been waiting for millions of years, waiting for someone wise enough to understand their message. The council chamber was silent. Then the questions began. How far away is this place? About 300 years of travel, Yuna answered. Even with the fastest ships. 300 years. That is impossible. No civilization could plan such a journey. One civilization did, Yuna said. The precursors. They believed that someone would come. They believed it enough to wait millions of years. Are we not willing to work 300? That night, Yuna stood on an observation deck and looked out at the stars. Taiho found her there. You really think we can do this? He asked. A journey that will take longer than human civilization has existed? Yuna thought about her grandmother, who had never left her village but dreamed of the stars. She thought about her parents, who had watched her fly away to another galaxy. She thought about all the humans who had looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. We have been making long journeys since the beginning, she said. Our ancestors walked out of Africa. They crossed oceans on wooden boats. They flew to the moon with computers weaker than a phone. Every generation hands the journey to the next. That is what humans do. We keep going. Taiho smiled. Jang, he said. We have Jang for the future. Yes, Yuna agreed. We have Jang for people we will never meet. Maybe that is the most human thing of all. The Galactic Academic Council called a special meeting. It was the biggest gathering in the Council's history. Representatives from all 12 member species were there. For the first time ever, a human was invited to speak from the central stage. Yuna stood in a circle of light. Around her, rising up in rings that disappeared into the darkness above, were thousands of alien beings. Crystal and gas and flesh and metal. Eyes and sensors and organs she could not name. All watching her, she was not afraid. She had come too far to be afraid. When I first arrived at this station, she began, I was told that humans were children, that our species was too young to understand the mysteries of the universe, that our technology was weak and our knowledge was small. And that was all true. She paused. The silence was complete. But the precursors did not leave their message for the species with the best computers. They did not hide it behind mathematics that only ancient minds could solve. They left it as a song, a feeling, an invitation that could only be heard by those who had not forgotten how to feel. Yuna looked up at the countless aliens above her. We humans are young. We still remember what it was like to be born, to learn everything for the first time, to feel wonder at a sunset or a flower or a stranger's kindness. We have not had time to become purely logical, purely efficient. We are still messy and emotional and confused. And that is our greatest strength. The council elder spoke. The elder was a Neth, an ancient being of living gas contained in a magnetic field. The elder had lived for 2,000 years and had seen civilizations rise and fall. You are saying that our wisdom became a weakness, the elder said. I am saying that wisdom without wonder is incomplete. Una replied. The precursors understood this. They were the oldest and most advanced civilization in the known universe. But they still felt lonely. They still hoped. They still loved. They left their message for species who had not lost these things. The elder was quiet for a long moment. Then the gaseous form flickered in a way that Una had learned meant agreement. We owe humanity an apology, the elder announced. We dismissed your species because you were different from us. We thought emotional thinking was primitive thinking. We were wrong. You have shown us that there are many kinds of intelligence, many kinds of wisdom. We have much to learn from each other. The council voted unanimously. The galactic community would build ships for the journey to the precursor meeting place. It would be the greatest project in history. 12 species working together for 300 years. Generations would be born and die on the ships. Children would grow up knowing nothing but the journey. After the meeting, Una found herself surrounded by aliens who wanted to thank her, to ask her questions, to simply be near the human who had changed everything. She escaped to a quiet garden at the edge of the station. It was filled with plants from Earth. Someone had created it for her. She sat on a bench under a cherry tree and breathed in the familiar smell of home. Haniel found her there. You are sad, the Keth observed. No, Una said. Just thinking. About what? About my grandmother. She died 5 years ago. She never knew about any of this. She never knew that her granddaughter would travel to the stars, that I would help unlock a mystery millions of years old. She just knew me as a little girl who was good at math. Haniel sat beside her. For a moment, they were quiet together. Tell me about her, Haniel said. So Una did. She told Haniel about Bora, who had been born in a small village and never left. About how Bora had taught her to write with brushes and cook with her hands and listen to the rhythm of rain. About the stories Bora told about stars and spirits and the connections between all living things. She sounds wise, Haniel said. She never went to university, Una said. She could barely read. But she understood things that took me decades to figure out. She knew that the universe is not just a machine to be analyzed. It is a story to be lived, a song to be sung. Una looked up at the cherry blossoms above her. Pink petals fell slowly in the artificial breeze. I solved the equations because of her, Una said. Because she taught me to feel before I think, to listen before I speak, to wonder before I understand. 1 year later, Una returned to Earth. She was welcomed as a hero. There were parades and speeches and awards. But Una did not care about any of that. She went home to Korea. She walked to the village where her grandmother had lived. She stood in the small garden where Bora had grown vegetables and flowers. We are going to meet them, grandmother, she said to the empty air. The old ones who waited for us in the dark. We are going to answer their song. And when we find them, I will tell them about you. About a woman who never left her village but taught her granddaughter to hear the music of the universe. The wind blew through the garden. The flowers swayed. And somewhere, across the vast dark spaces between stars, the precursors continued to wait, but not for much longer. Humanity was coming, and they would bring songs,